All right, let's talk about a huge challenge that pretty much every AI developer runs into. How do you take that really cool agent prototype, the one that works perfectly on your own computer, and turn it into a trustworthy, production-ready application? Believe me, it's a way bigger jump than you might think. So let's break down exactly how you can pull it off. So you've built an agent, right? Maybe it writes code, searches the web, or crunches data. And it's super impressive in a demo, no doubt. But here's the real question. Can you actually trust it out in the wild? I mean, can it work with real customer data for real users without just causing total chaos? That gap, the one between a cool prototype and a rock-solid production system, is exactly what we're going to close today. And this slide right here, this is the whole story. On one side, you've got your prototype agent. It's often amnesic. It has absolutely no memory of you from one session to the next. It's also reckless. It'll just try to execute any command it dreams up with zero safety checks. For it to graduate, it needs to become a production agent, one that actually remembers you and is fundamentally safe to use. And we're going to build this out with two key pillars. First up, pillar one, we have to give our agent a memory. You know, an agent that can't remember anything is kind of like having the same introductory nice to meet you conversation over and over again. It's just not useful. To build a real relationship with a user, it needs to be able to learn and recall stuff. Okay, so there are actually two types of memory we need to think about. First, you've got short-term memory. The best way to think about this is as the agent's scratchpad for the conversation you're having right now. It's tracking the flow of the dialogue, it remembers what you just said, and it's holding on to any temporary results. It's absolutely crucial for a coherent chat. But here's the catch. Once that session ends, poof, that scratchpad is wiped completely clean. And that's where long-term memory comes in. Oh man, this is the real game changer. This is like the agent's permanent filing cabinet. This is where it can store your preferences, remember key facts from conversations you had weeks ago, and build up a useful profile over time. This is what makes an agent feel personal and lets it actually get smarter with every single interaction. This table just breaks it down so clearly. See, short-term memory is all about a single conversation, just to keep track of what's happening. But long-term memory, its scope is all conversations, so it can store things like a user profile or a preferences file. Short-term is temporary. It's gone after one session. Long-term is durable. The bottom line is, you absolutely need both to create an agent that makes sense on the moment and gets more helpful over time. All right, we've got memory down, but that's only half the battle. Now for pillar two, which is arguably even more important, making your agent safe to operate. A powerful agent is awesome, but a powerful agent with totally unrestricted access to your system, well, that's just a disaster waiting to happen. And let's be crystal clear about the risks here. We are talking about an agent that could literally delete your personal files, run any command it wants with your permissions, and even hunt down and send your private data, like your API keys, out to the internet. This isn't some far-off theoretical risk. This is the default behavior of a reckless, unsupervised agent. So how in the world do we contain this kind of power? Well, our first line of defense is something called a sandbox. A sandbox is basically a secure, isolated playground. Inside this playground, the agent can read and write files, it can run code, it can execute commands, but it's all happening inside a totally sealed-off environment that has no access to your actual computer. It can't break out and cause any real damage. Okay, listen up, because this is probably the most important part. Even when you're using a sandbox, you have to follow one golden rule. Never, ever, ever put secrets inside it. If an attacker can trick your agent's prompt, that's a technique called context injection, they can order the agent to find any API keys or passwords inside that sandbox and send them out. The sandbox isolates the execution, but it does not protect the data you put inside it. Okay, so a sandbox is great for providing environmental safety. It stops the agent from, wrecking your entire system. But what about the actions themselves? Even inside a safe sandbox, you probably don't want an agent to, say, send an angry email to your entire company or run a delete all command on a database without asking you first. So how do we control that? The answer is a human-in-the-loop workflow, or HITS for short. This is your ultimate safety net. Before the agent performs any action that you've marked as sensitive, it just stops and asks a human for approval. It's basically like having adult supervision for every single critical decision the agent wants to make. So here's exactly how that works in practice. First, the agent proposes an action, like, I want to send an email. The system immediately hits the brakes, pausing everything and asking for a human to review it. Then you, the human, get to look at exactly what it's trying to do. You can approve it as is, you can edit it, maybe change who the email is going to, or you can just reject it entirely. Only after you give the okay does the agent actually proceed. So when you put it all together, combining memory and safety, you finally get the complete, production-ready agent. It's no longer amnesic. It's no longer reckless. Now it's a tool that is both incredibly smart and fundamentally safe. So let's just quickly recap the key takeaways here. For a real professional-grade agent, you need long-term memory to make it personal and short-term memory to keep it coherent. You must isolate all of its code execution in a secure sandbox. And finally, you have to enforce that human-in-the-loop workflow for anything and everything sensitive. These aren't just nice-to-haves, they are the absolute essential pillars for any AI system you want to trust. Look, building a quick prototype is the easy part. Building a robust, trustworthy agent that you can actually depend on, that's the real challenge. But now with these pillars of memory and safety, you have the blueprint. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with it?